revealed the amazing reason a teen skipped school and was found washing dishes at 3 a.m. Ethan's heart raced as he wiped the sweat from his brow, glancing at the bustling diner. The clinking of plates and the chatter of late-night diners swirled around him, drowning out the frustrations of the world outside. He was 16, the weight of a household resting on his young shoulders. When school had let out, he had traded textbooks for dish soap, determined to find a way to help his family, even if it meant losing precious sleep. After another long day juggling classes and homework, chasing after his younger siblings, Ethan's eyelids felt like lead. He longed to be like his classmates who shared dinner stories and weekend plans. Instead, as he entered the apartment, he was greeted by the familiar sight of his siblings sprawled out on the living room couch, half asleep amidst scattered toys. Their mother, working a double at the factory, was still away, and Ethan felt that familiar knot in his chest. I can't let them down again. In that moment of silence, inspiration sparked. He grabbed his jacket, the chill of the night air beckoning him to step outside. With determination fueling his steps, he made his way to Mrs. Thompson's diner, the warm glow of the neon sign casting a hopeful light in the darkness. Once inside, Ethan took up his usual position in the back, where soapy water bubbled in a sink filled with grease-slicked plates. He found solace in the rhythm of scrubbing and rinsing, the routine steadying him amid the chaos of his life. "You're a good kid, Ethan," Mrs. Thompson would say, a smile gracing her weathered face. Her words filled him with purpose, but there were whispers that cut deeper, the murmurs of those who didn't understand. "Why is he skipping school?" a customer would sneer to another. "Shouldn't he be studying instead of washing dishes?" Ethan could feel those stares, the judgment trailing behind him. Days turned into weeks as he juggled school, homework, and his late-night shifts. One day, the tension came to a head during a school assembly. Students were recognized for their perfect attendance and high grades, while Ethan felt like a ghost. Gathering his courage, he stepped up to the microphone, the gym's silence pressing against him. "I skipped school not because I don't care about my education, but because I care about my family." Gasps rippled through the crowd. He felt their eyes widen, confusion mixing with empathy. The weight of their misunderstanding broke as he spoke of his nightly responsibilities, the laughter of his siblings, the smell of home-cooked meals, and the financial struggles they faced together. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The gym crackled with tension. Some students shifted in their seats, while others leaned forward, captivated. Ethan locked eyes with Jake, his rival, whose life was flawless, untouched by the burdens that weighed on Ethan's heart. Could the truth bridge their worlds? Would it dissolve the divisions, or merely highlight the chasms that existed? The room felt electric, all eyes waiting for a resolution, a moment of understanding or deeper divides. Ethan stood tall, heart pounding, knowing his voice would forever echo in their memories. Would they see a hero or a lost cause? The answer lingered like a fragile thread, waiting to snap or strengthen their bond as classmates. The moment hung in the air, thick and charged. Ethan met Jake's gaze, searching for a sign of acknowledgement, a hint that the divide between them could be bridged. But all he saw was disbelief, the perfect facade of Jock King crumbling just slightly. Suddenly, the gym erupted into a chorus of whispers. "Is he serious?" a girl in the front row asked incredulously. "What a loser," came a mocking voice from the back. Ethan felt the flush creeping up his neck. Those words hurt more than he expected. Isn't it enough that he was trying to hold everything together? "Makes you think twice before judging someone, huh?" Ethan muttered under his breath, barely loud enough for his own ears. But that wasn't enough. He could feel the mix of curious eyes on him, some softening and others sharpening like blades. "Ethan," the principal's voice broke through the din, encouraging him to either step back or stay on this tightrope. "It takes courage to speak your truth." That simple affirmation fueled Ethan's fire. "I'm not looking for sympathy," he said, "just understanding.
Taking a deep breath, he plunged deeper into his story. My mom works hard just to put food on the table. She doesn't get home until late, and my siblings, they depend on me. I'm doing my best. The emotion tightened his throat. A wave of vulnerability washed over him as he scoured the faces in front of him for some connection, hoping to find common ground. To his surprise, he noticed a few heads nodding, quiet affirmations from those who understood sacrifice, kids who took care of siblings who worked part-time jobs. Their presence made the burdens feel a little lighter. But it wasn't just empathy. Those who scoffed were still present, and the echoes of their laughter stung anew. The moment felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, with one wrong step leading straight into judgment. Ethan pressed on. I love school, I really do, and once things settle down at home, I'll be back. But right now, my family needs me, and that's what matters most.
His voice trembled like a tightrope underfoot, and the honesty enveloped the gym like a soft breeze. From the corner of his vision, Jake shifted, his expression shifting from aloofness to contemplation. The buzz of disbelief began to evolve, muting the negativity one frustrating comment at a time. Dude, move out of your parents' house and get your grades up, he had often said. But now Ethan wondered if it had ever crossed Jake's mind how hard life could be without the privilege that came so naturally to him. Then, as if the heavens had opened, Jake stood. A nervous hush fell over the room as all eyes darted to him. I got a part-time job too, he announced, voice steady yet laden with an unknown weight. I thought I was working hard, but I never thought about what it's like to fight for your family. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Was Jake about to connect the dots? The gym erupted into murmurs, but he couldn't focus on them. He was torn between anger and hope. Would this awareness change everything? Or would it lead to more noise, more judgment? Before he could ponder further, the bell rang, signaling the end of the assembly. The chatter swelled as students began to disperse, leaving a collective cloud of tentative, mutual respect. Yet as Ethan stepped off the stage, the familiar fear returned. Would any of this really matter once the rush wore off? Uncertainty gripped him. Just as he thought he could finally breathe, the future stood in front of him like a closed door. Was he brave enough to knock again? He glanced back at Jake, whose expression remained unreadable. Would this unexpected dialogue lead to collaboration or a deeper misunderstanding? The unanswered questions lingered painfully in the air, tightening his chest as he walked back to the real world. And in that uncertain moment, Ethan realized tomorrow would come, but how would it unfold? Ethan trudged down the hallway, each step feeling heavier than the last. Students poured out of classrooms, eager to escape the sterile air of the school. Laughter erupted in pockets around him, a world far removed from his own weighty thoughts. The assembly had cracked something open inside him, and now he faced the aftermath of his words, uncertainty tempered by a glimmer of hope. He found himself at his locker, mindlessly twisting the combination. The latch clicked open, revealing a jumble of books and stray papers. It felt so mundane compared to the swell of emotion that had just unfolded. What had just happened on that stage? Had he really connected with Jake? What did it mean? The clamor faded as he focused on a single note buried beneath textbooks, a crumpled paper creased with age. It was a reminder from a peer tutoring program, a last-minute chance to help other kids struggling with math. A part of him wanted to ignore it, to let it slip away like so many other glowing opportunities, but this time the whisper of possibility tugged at him. A flicker of the responsibility that had guided him for so long, a chance to give back, to connect. As he stood there, a familiar voice broke through his reverie. Hey man, nice speech back there. It was Lucas, a teammate from the soccer team, someone Ethan had barely interacted with outside of practice. His words were soft, genuine. It caught Ethan off guard, and for a moment, he wasn't sure how to respond. Thanks, Ethan stammered, the words tumbling out like marbles on the floor. Lucas leaned against the locker next to Ethan's. I didn't know you were dealing with all that stuff. You know, I thought you were just another kid trying to coast through life. He smiled, but there was something deeper behind his eyes, a warmth that caught Ethan by surprise. It's easy to assume, Ethan replied, feeling a flicker of understanding brighten the spaces between them. Are you okay? Lucas asked, genuine concern in his voice. If you need any help or just want to talk, I'm here. Ethan opened his mouth to respond, unsure of what to say. The vulnerability felt unnerving, yet his heart urged him forward. He nodded slowly, a sense of weight lifting ever so slightly. Maybe this was what he needed, a connection, even in the most unexpected places. Just then, Jake appeared at the entrance of the hallway. He glanced around, perhaps searching for Ethan. The memories of what he had said earlier flooded back. Could Jake have felt something too? But as Jake locked his eyes onto Ethan, the hopeful warmth dwindled,
replaced by the same uncertainty that had simmered before. A flicker of something dark passed over Jake's face. Was it regret, anger, or just confusion? "Ethan," Jake called, laced with hesitation. Ethan's heart raced. What now? Would they take a step forward or slide back into their old ways? He exchanged a quick glance with Lucas, who gave him an encouraging nod, as if silently cheering him on. This was his chance to confront the divide, to take the leap into uncharted territory. Steeling himself, Ethan stepped forward. "I'd like to talk," he said, his voice steady despite the tremor dancing in his chest. Jake's brow furrowed, the air between them crackling with possibilities and questions. What would this conversation hold? Would they open up those unexpected paths, or would it come crashing down? Suddenly, a girl rushed by, almost colliding with Jake. "Watch where you're going," she snapped, before disappearing into the stream of students. That moment hung between them, filled with tension. Would Jake finally acknowledge what Ethan had said? Or would they retreat back to silence, leaving all honesty unrealized? The future remained unwritten, and as they stood there, Ethan felt the weight of choice pressing down on him. Would they move forward, or would apart feel more comfortable? In that instant, a simple truth flashed in his mind. Sometimes the hardest battles lead to the greatest discoveries. What would they uncover together?
Ethan took a deep breath, searching Jake's expression for a sign, any sign, that they could talk. The hallway buzzed around them, students chatting, laughing, as if the world hadn't paused for this crucial moment. He could feel the heat of embarrassment creeping up his neck, but he couldn't turn back now. This was the moment where everything could change. "Listen, Jake, about what I said earlier," Ethan started, his voice barely above the clamor. There was a rawness to his words, an honesty that felt foreign and liberating at the same time. He could see Jake's brow furrowing deeper, tension radiating off him. "You don't have to apologize or anything," Jake shot back quickly, raising a hand as if to ward off the conversation. I didn't think it'd hit me like that." Ethan felt a rush of hope. "Yeah, but it did. And I think it could be good for both of us to talk about it, to face it, all of it." Jake's expression shifted, a flicker of something vulnerable breaking through. "I don't know if I'm ready to do that," he admitted, his voice dropping. "What if it doesn't change anything? What if it just makes things worse?" Ethan's heart hammered against his ribcage. "But what if it helps? I mean, we've both been sitting on things for too long. Don't you want to figure it out?" His words echoed louder than he had intended, causing the nearby students to glance their way. Lucas shifted beside him, offering a silent support. The sound of laughter felt distant now, replaced with a heavy silence woven between the three of them. "I don't want to drag you into my mess," Jake finally replied, his eyes darting around as if seeking an escape. "It's complicated, you know. I don't want to hurt you." Ethan inhaled sharply at those words. "You already care. Just by saying that, it shows you care." Jake met his gaze then, something unspoken yet electric passing between them. But there was still hesitation flickering in his eyes. "Ethan," he started, but the uncertainty was palpable. At that moment, everything seemed to slow down. Ethan felt the weight of his past choices pressing around him, suffocating and heavy. Yet he sensed an opening too, a chance for something more, something real. A chorus of laughter erupted nearby, shattering the intensity between them. Jake flinched, breaking eye contact, and looked down at his shoes, kicking the ground softly. Ethan's mind raced. He could feel that if they didn't seize this moment, it might slip away. "Jake, please," he implored, desperate but firm. "Can we meet somewhere after school? We could talk, really talk." Jake hesitated, his jaw tightening. The seconds stretched, and Ethan feared they had reached a breaking point. But then Jake sighed, the tension bubbling up, releasing a little of that weight. "Okay, maybe we could, but I'm not promising anything." Relief washed over Ethan, along with a rush of newfound hope. "That's all I'm asking for," he said softly, a small smile breaking through the tension. Jake nodded, his expression a mix of reluctance and curiosity. "I guess I'll see you then." A wave of uncertainty mingled with excitement as they stood amidst the ebb and flow of students. A small step forward, yes, but it felt monumental. Ethan turned to Lucas, meeting his supportive gaze. "Thanks for, being here." "Anytime, man," Lucas said, clapping him on the back. "You've got this." But as the urgency of the moment faded, Ethan felt that familiar shadow creeping back, uncertainty whispering in his ear. Would Jake really open up? Would he have the courage to dig deep? when both of them had worn masks for too long? As the bell rang, signaling the end of the period, he felt a pulse of energy, a promise of things to come. He was ready for a transformation, but could Jake embrace it too? The unanswered question lingered in the air. What truths would emerge during their talk? The hum of the school day faded as Ethan walked home, thoughts racing in every direction. He replayed the moment in the hallway over and over. Each word Jake had said flickered in his mind like an old film reel, both exciting and terrifying to consider the possibilities. The sun began its slow descent in the sky, casting a golden hue over the neighborhood as he trudged forward. His heart leaped at the thought of their talk later. Would it bring them closer? Would they skid down the path of honesty and emerge in a better place? Or would it be the kind of revelation that tore them apart? Ethan stumbled on a crack in the pavement, jarring him from his thoughts. He shook his head, trying to brush away the doubt. As he stepped into his house, the familiar creak of the floorboards greeted him. His mom was in the kitchen, the smell of something comforting wafting through the air. "Hey, honey," she called, wiping her hands with a towel. "How was school?" "Fine," he replied, forcing a bright smile. The knot in his stomach tangled tighter. It felt wrong to burden her with his worries when all she wanted was to hear about a good day. "Just fine?" She arched an eyebrow, a teasing smile playing on her lips. "Nah, just thinking about some stuff." He headed into his room, letting the door shut behind him. The familiar clutter of his life surrounded him. T-shirts thrown carelessly on the floor, homework sprawled across his desk. It all provided a sense of comfort, but today he needed something more. He pulled out his phone, glancing at the clock. There was still time before their meeting. Would it hurt to text Jake? Something simple, like, "Looking forward to our talk." But deep down, fear held him back. What if Jake didn't feel the same? What if he regretted agreeing to the conversation? The impulse to reach out ebbed away. Instead, he stared out of his window, watching the fading light. Hours ticked by slowly, until finally he glanced at the clock and realized it was time. The excitement he had felt earlier morphed into a thick haze of anxiety. Wrapping his jacket around himself, he took a deep breath. This wasn't just a casual chat, it was a turning point. Before he knew it, he was outside, the cool air biting at his skin, but it felt refreshing against the storm inside. Walking the familiar path to the park, memories flooded back. Playful summers spent laughing, whispered secrets exchanged in the dead of night. But the memory that stung the most was the moment Jake had begun to pull away. Ethan arrived at the park, heart pounding as he scanned the area. There was Jake, sitting on a bench with his head down. His heart twisted slightly. Jake looked heavy with something unspoken. "Hey," Ethan said softly, taking a seat beside him. Jake looked up, his eyes clouded but curious. "Hey, thanks for coming." The two sat in silence at first, the air electric with unsaid words. The weight of it all settled around them, a manifestation of their fears, of what the outcome could bring. "Ethan, I've been thinking," Jake finally said, his voice low and raw, "about us, about everything." Ethan held his breath. This was the moment that could change everything. Would they find resolution, or would the past consume them once again? As Jake's words began to spill out, Ethan felt the tension, the long-awaited opening, the promise of change, or the risk of heartbreak. He leaned in, ready for whatever truth would emerge, unaware of the storm brewing, waiting to break. Jake took a deep breath, his hands fidgeting nervously in his lap. "You know how things have felt different between us lately?" He paused, glancing up at Ethan, searching for understanding in his eyes. The moment felt precarious, like standing at the edge of a cliff. "Yeah," Ethan replied quietly, his own heart fluttering in response. "I've noticed. It's like we're not the same as we used to be." Jake nodded, biting his lip. "That's it. I've been thinking about why we've both been feeling this way. It scared me, a lot." Ethan swallowed hard, sensing the weight of Jake's admission. It was now or never. "Do you want to talk about it?" "Yeah," Jake replied, but the words caught in his throat, and silence hung like damp air. He brushed his hands against his jeans, wiping away the nerves as if they were specks of dust. "I have pushed you away, because I didn't understand how to deal with what I felt." Ethan leaned closer, every nerve ending on alert. "What do you mean?" Jake locked his gaze with Ethan, as if that connection would offer the courage he needed. "I like you, Ethan. Like, really like you. More than just friends. And I didn't know how to handle that. It kinda freaked me out."
Ethan's heart raced, a flood of warmth washing over him, mixing with the lingering tension. Jake, I felt the same way for a while. I was just scared to say anything.
Relief washed over Jake, a tentative smile breaking through, but along with it came a shadow of doubt. You really mean it? Because I didn't want to ruin what we had by saying the wrong thing. No, wait, Ethan exclaimed, his excitement bubbling over for a moment. This could be a good thing, right? We could figure it out together. Jake let out a shaky breath, his eyes brightening. Yeah, but what if it changes everything? What if we mess it up? Ethan reached out, brushing his fingers against Jake's. Change doesn't have to be bad. Maybe this is exactly what we need to make things better. Silence enveloped them again, but this time it felt charged with potential rather than fear. Jake's thumb grazed over Ethan's knuckles, a gentle gesture that sent shivers down his spine. So we really come out and say it? Be honest? Yeah, let's just be real with each other, Ethan replied, his heart pounding as he grasped the gravity of their conversation. I don't want to hide anymore. A soft breeze rustled the leaves above, creating a faint whisper of encouragement. Jake's smile widened, and in that moment, Ethan could see hope blooming, the kind that had been stifled for so long. Okay, Jake said, his voice steadier now. Together then, we can find a way through this. But just as Ethan opened his mouth to respond, the distant sound of laughter and shouts broke through their bubble, drawing their attention to a group of kids playing nearby. Normalcy felt like a stark contrast to the life-changing conversation unfolding between them. Ethan turned back to Jake, but he noticed a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes again. What if people don't understand? What if it changes how everyone sees us? Ethan felt that familiar knot of worry in his stomach. I don't know, but I also don't want to hide who we are. Aren't we worth being honest for? Jake hesitated, caught between fear and the exhilarating taste of truth. Ethan's pulse quickened again. This was just the beginning of a journey towards honesty, one that could either build a bridge between them or ignite a new conflict. As silence fell again, Ethan felt hope battling uncertainty inside him. The sun dipped lower, casting an orange glow that felt almost like a promise. Would they embrace the uncertainty or pull back into the shadows of their past mistakes? Ethan, Jake finally whispered, breaking the spell. Whatever happens next, I'm glad we're having this talk. But as the sun set, casting long shadows across the park, Ethan realized that the true test was still ahead. Would they step into the light together or retreat to safety? The question lingered, heavier than the darkness now creeping across the horizon. With the last rays of sunlight slipping beneath the horizon, the park around them transformed into a dimly lit refuge, making their world feel smaller and more intimate. Jake's anxiety drained slightly, but the weight of their conversation sat heavily in the air, each unsaid word hanging between them like a fine thread. Ethan, are you sure you want to go through with this? Jake's voice trembled as he searched Ethan's eyes for reassurance. Ember-colored hues reflected in their depths, and for a moment he thought he saw courage there. More than anything, Ethan said, his tone steady. But we have to talk about it more openly, not just between us, but also with everyone else eventually. Do you think we can do that? The thought swirled in Jake's mind, a mixture of excitement and fear. I guess we have to. I just wish it wasn't so complicated. You're not alone in this. You've got me, no matter what. So what if things get complicated? We'll handle it together, right? Ethan's voice was soft, gentle yet firm. A shiver coursed through Jake at those words. The idea of being exposed, the truth of what he felt, terrified him. He had spent so much time in his own head, figuring things out, wrestling with feelings he didn't know how to vocalize. How would others react? What about our friends? My family? Jake felt a wave of nausea at the thought. What do they think? What if they don't accept us? Hey, they care about you, Ethan said, and his fingers tightened over Jake's, pulling him closer. And me too. If they truly care, they'll want us to be happy, right? Yeah, but happiness is a tricky thing. Jake dodged Ethan's gaze, feeling the warmth of his hand, yet battling the dread inside. How do I explain it? It's not just a crush. It feels bigger than that. It feels like everything is changing. His voice wavered as he continued.
what if we don't know how to deal with it when it happens? Ethan smiled softly, as if the heaviness of Jake's uncertainties rolled off him like raindrops. What if we argue? What if we don't talk as much? Or worse? He could see the fear in Jake's eyes, mirroring a fragile reflection of his own. Then at least we'll know we tried, Ethan urged, moving his forehead closer to Jake's until they could feel the warmth emanating from each other. You and me against the world, right? Jake smiled faintly. Yeah, he whispered, the corners of his mouth twitching with a mix of hope and doubt. I like that. But just as Ethan leaned in closer, a loud cheer erupted from the nearby group of kids again, and a soccer ball suddenly whizzed past them, landing roughly nearby. Laughter echoed around, a stark reminder of their youthful innocence, unaware of the intricate web of feelings being laid out only a few feet away. Jake's smile faltered, and his gaze shifted to the children, their carefree joy amplifying his unease. See, they don't have to worry about anything. They just play. The words trailed off as he sighed, frustration pulsing. Jake, Ethan's voice cut through the thoughts. This is different. We have our own lives, our own truths. It's time to embrace them.
Jake locked eyes with him, the evening air thick with unsaid promises and wild heartbeats. And if it all falls apart? Ethan paused, his expression shifting from uncertainty to resolve. We'll figure it out, even if it means falling apart first. Maybe that's how we discover what we're truly made of. Jake could feel the pulse of hope battling against uncertainty within him. Would they really risk everything for something that could break them? The night was falling, as was the weight of their conversation. As they shared a charged silence, an indistinct noise reached them. From further down the path, laughter merged with shouts, voices intertwining and drifting through the chill. Are you ready? Ethan's question hung in the air, full of anticipation. Not quite knowing the answer, Jake took a steady breath, feeling the cool air fill his lungs. He could sense the journey stretching out before them, a path that led into the unknown, toward a horizon painted in the deep blue of night. Let's do it, Jake finally said, rushing out the words with newfound resolve. But as they turned toward the sounds of life, Jake's heart raced with both excitement and dread. Could they truly face whatever might come their way? And in the distance, a warning bell rang loud, their fears murmuring as his phone buzzed in his pocket, a message that could change everything just when they thought they moved forward. What if it held news that would send them tumbling back into chaos? Jake's fingers trembled as he pulled out his phone, the glow illuminating his face in the darkening park. His heart sank as he read the notification. It was from his dad, a simple but loaded message. We need to talk, Jake. Can you come home? The weight of those words crashed over him like a wave, drowning out the laughter from the nearby children. Ethan's brow furrowed, sensing the shift in Jake's demeanor. What's wrong? It's my dad, Jake managed, his voice barely above a whisper. He wants to talk. Now. Concern flashed across Ethan's face. About what? What else? This. Jake gestured between them, heart racing. He can't know about us. Not like this. Not yet. Ethan squeezed Jake's hand tighter. Maybe it's not about that. Maybe. But dread clawed at Jake's insides. His dad had a way of bringing things to light, of cutting through the noise. It was what he admired most about him, but now it was the source of his biggest fear. Do you want me to come? Ethan asked gently, his voice laced with concern. Jake shook his head, creating distance even as his heart longed for closeness. No, this feels like something I should face alone. Ethan's eyes searched his, a mix of unwavering support and a deep, raw vulnerability. You're not alone, Jake. Even if I'm not there, I'm right here. I know. Jake paused, feeling the rush of emotions, fear, sadness, hope, and love, all colliding. He swallowed hard, fighting back the frustration building within. I'm scared. Me too, Ethan admitted, his voice soft. But talking with him might be what you need. Maybe it will be a chance to open things up, even if you're not ready yet. Jake looked at the ground for a moment. A soft breeze twisted the chilly air around him, and he felt a flicker of courage through the anxiety. What if it goes wrong? Then we deal. Together, Ethan replied, his resolve unwavering. With one last look, Jake managed a small nod, the knot in his stomach tightening further. He turned to leave but paused, glancing back at Ethan. What if he doesn't accept me? What if? Whatever happens, remember I'm right here, Ethan called out, voice steady and strong behind him. As Jake walked towards the exit of the park, he could feel the night closing in around him. Each step felt heavy, like he was dragging the weight of the world behind him. The world felt suddenly vast yet confined, every street lamp casting shadows that flickered like his unsteady heartbeat. He could hardly hear the laughter or joy that filled the air now. It was drowned out by the looming conversation ahead. With every step, memories flashed, moments of laughter, of fleeting glances shared with Ethan, the burden of hiding, and the weight of unspoken truths. As he approached the familiar threshold of his home, his hand shook as he reached for the door. What awaited him on the other side could change everything or tear them apart. His phone buzzed in his pocket, slicing through the tension again, sending a jolt through him. A second message from Ethan. Whatever happens, just know I'm with you. Taking a deep breath, he pushed the door open, stepping into the warm, dim light of his home. The air inside felt electric, crackling with ominous possibilities. "Jake, you're home early," his mom called from the kitchen, her voice bright but edged with a hint of concern. "Yeah, just needed to talk," Jake managed, the words feeling heavy like an anchor. And as he walked down the hallway, he couldn't shake the feeling that the next few moments might alter the course of everything he had hoped for. Through the living room, he could see his dad sitting on the couch, expression somber, waiting. Jake's heart raced. Would he be brave enough? As he took his place across from his father, the reality of the moment settled over him like a mist. There was no turning back now. And just as Jake opened his mouth to speak, the doorbell echoed through the house, a sound that shattered the anticipation and heralded anew a moment filled with uncertainty. Who could it be? Would it change the fragile balance of everything they had just begun to embrace? Jake's breath caught in his throat at the sound of the doorbell. His dad's gaze shifted toward the hallway, brows knitting together in confusion. "What now?" he muttered under his breath, clearly frustrated at the interruption. For a fleeting moment, Jake considered the possibility of just not answering. But curiosity twinkled in the back of his mind, battling with the numbness threatening to envelop him. He fixed his eyes on his father, who was still staring at the door, lips pressed tight. "I'll get it," Jake said, the words tumbling out before he could think them through. He turned and moved toward the door, each step heavier than the last. Why was he so curious anyway? Maybe it was a distraction, a chance to delay the conversation that loomed larger than life in that small room. Maybe it was a chance to breathe, to momentarily escape the pressure building between them. As he swung the door open, a wave of relief and electricity washed over Jake, all mixed in the shock of seeing Ethan standing there, drenched and shivering, soaking wet from the rain that had fallen earlier and now cascaded down the collar of his shirt. "Ethan," Jake exclaimed, stepping aside immediately. "What are you doing here?" "I know it's a bit crazy," Ethan began, cheeks flushed from the cold, "but I couldn't just let you face your dad alone. I had to see you." For a split second, Jake's heart soared, but the looming reality of the moment made the joy feel more like a bittersweet ache. He glanced back at his father, who was now standing, hand on his hip, eyebrows raised in disapproval. Jake stepped aside even wider, inviting Ethan in. "You shouldn't have come. I know," Ethan interrupted softly, squeezing Jake's hand tightly. "I couldn't just sit there waiting, wondering if you were okay." Jake's heart thudded wildly, a mixing of dread and warmth spiraling through him. The momentary shelter of Ethan's presence was like an anchor. "You must be freezing," Jake said, feeling guilt for the warmth he had taken comfort in while Ethan had braved the storm. "Please, we can worry about me later," Ethan replied, his voice determined but tender. "Enough of all this standing around," Jake's dad said, crossing his arms over his chest. "Jake, come on, we need to talk." Jake's stomach churned as he looked from his dad to Ethan. "Can you—" he started, then stopped. He wanted to hold on to this moment, this support. But did he dare involve Ethan in the conversation? "What if I stay?" Ethan offered, his voice steady. "I can help." "No," Jake's dad interrupted sharply. "This is between me and my son. No one else needs to be involved." The authority in his father's tone sent chills down Jake's spine, stirring memories of childhood and rules he often felt trapped within. Jake could feel the walls closing in.
He took a step back, pulling Ethan with him. Dad, please, I need him here. I can't face this without him. Jake, his father warned, the name hanging between them like a fragile ribbon stretched tight. No, Jake said, the sharpness surprising even himself. You can't just dismiss him like that. He's important to me. Silence fell sharply, and the tension strung tautly in the air, each breath feeling heavier than the last. Important? His dad echoed, clearly startled.
You need to choose wisely, son. You're at an age where your choices matter. The words struck at the core of Jake's being. The weight of expectation pressing down on him grew harder to bear. In that moment, he felt torn, battling between the comfort that Ethan provided and his father's stern demeanor. Ethan watched with wide eyes, ready to support but uncertain how to navigate the jagged edge of this conversation. What if I can't choose? Jake's voice broke, fear pooling in his chest, the warmth of Ethan's hand squeezed tighter against his own. Then you'll end up lost, his dad replied, heavy and foreboding, as if sealing Jake's fate with every word. Jake's eyes flicked desperately to Ethan's, hoping for solace in that familiar gaze, the anchor he so desperately needed. And just as the moment felt its most fragile, the door swung open wider, revealing an unexpected face, someone from the past who could change everything, someone who held the keys to Jake's truths. Surprise! The guest exclaimed with a mix of excitement and concern. Did I come at a bad time? Jake's heart raced. Who was standing there? What would it mean for what lay ahead? Understanding or upheaval? Jake's heart raced in his chest as he recognized the figure standing at the door, his older sister Mia. She beamed like sunshine breaking through clouds, her hair damp from the rain, but her smile unwavering. I hope I'm not interrupting, she chirped, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Jake's dad blinked in surprise, clearly caught off guard. Mia? He looked torn between annoyance at the interruption and the warm affection that only a parent can hold for their child. Mia glanced between her father and brother, quickly assessing the tension hanging in the air like fog. I came to check on you, Jake. Heard you were going through something. Her eyes flickered to Ethan, who was still beside Jake, hand entwined with his own. Yeah, I could use a little distraction, Jake admitted, feeling a surge of relief at her unexpected presence. Mia's smile softened as she stepped closer. Good, because I need to talk about something too. She waved a hand, dismissing the gravity she had walked into. But first, why is everyone standing in the entryway? Come on, let's sit down. Jake's father, realizing he had been outnumbered, relented. All right, fine, he sighed, motioning to the living room. But we need to talk when she's done. No detours. Jake felt the tension shift slightly as they moved to the couch. He settled beside Ethan, feeling grounded by the warmth of his presence. Mia nested herself on the edge of the coffee table, her bright eyes dancing with curiosity. So, Jake, what's going on? I heard things have been a little crazy. Jake opened his mouth, unsure of how to begin explaining the storm inside him, the fear of his father's disapproval, the uncertain love blossoming with Ethan, the delicate balance of bonds he was trying to navigate. But a deep breath filled his lungs, allowing the words to flow out. Well, I'm trying to find my way, I guess. I've been thinking a lot about family and who I am. Mia nodded, a knowing look creeping over her face. That sounds tough, but you're not meant to figure it all out at once. Just let it come. Your feelings are valid, no matter how confusing they may seem. Jake felt a wave of comfort wash over him. There it was, the fearless acceptance he had sought, but found difficult within the walls of his home. He could see Ethan watching him, the same affirmation in his gaze. It was all the encouragement Jake needed to push forward. Well, it's about Ethan, too, Jake admitted, fingers entwined tighter with Ethan's. Something changed between us. Mia raised an eyebrow, teasing curiosity in her tone. Oh, do tell. Jake felt a rush of anxious hope. The determined glint in Mia's eyes told him he was safe to share, so he did. He spoke of their friendship, of the way Ethan had always been there, how Ethan made him feel seen and understood. He laid bare the truth of their late-night conversations and their emotions that swirled like a tornado, exposing the tender feelings he had kept bottled up. Mia smiled knowingly and glanced at Ethan. You're a brave one, Ethan. It takes courage to love openly and honestly, especially when the world around you doesn't always get it. Jake's heart raced. What if my dad doesn't accept it?
He glanced toward his father, who sat with his arms crossed, brows knit slightly together. Would this moment shift the air further? Would they finally create the bridge they needed? Mia's gaze softened, filled with the understanding that only an older sister could have. Then it's tough for him, but also necessary for you both. The truth is freedom, even if it feels scary. Just then, Jake's dad spoke, interrupting the charged atmosphere. But, Jake, what you say may be true, but life isn't always black and white. But, Dad, Jake interjected before he could stop himself, it's not about the colors we paint in. It's about understanding where we stand. I want to be real, and I don't want to hide who I am or who I love. Jake's father exhaled, his demeanor shifting slightly. He looked at Jake, seeing the young man he was growing into, and for the first time, the wall of rigid expectations cracked. I get it, but it's my job to worry about you, to protect you, he said, voice softening. You can protect and accept at the same time, Dad, Jake responded, every ounce of his bravery rising to the surface. I can't be who you want me to be if it means shoving away who I am. The room tensed again, and Jake's stomach rolled with layers of unexpressed emotions. Moments dragged longer than seconds. But then something shifted in his father's gaze. The uncertainty of judgment began to be replaced with a glimmer of understanding. I don't want to lose you in this, son, his father said quietly.
You won't, Jake replied, voice trembling with emotion. You may not understand how I feel or who I love, but I'm still me. I don't want to hide. Silence filled the room again, heavy but no longer suffocating. With every moment that clicked by, they danced between uncertainty and acceptance, reflecting on the threads of their family bond that needed mending. Finally, Ethan took a deep breath, releasing the tension in his belly. We just want the space to explore who we are. Together, he offered, glancing between Jake and Mia, noted the flickering of hope within the family. And whatever that looks like, I promise I'll be there for Jake. Jake's father swallowed hard. For a fleeting heartbeat, the shadows lifted. I'll need time to understand, but if he's happy, then I guess we can try. Something ignited, a spark of hope lighting a tunnel that had once felt dark and unending. Jake let out a breath he had Mia realized he was holding, his heart swelling with gratitude for this newfound connection with both Ethan and his family. Mia clapped her hands, breaking the tension. See, this is how family works. A little love goes a long way. Her eyes twinkled, and Jake snuck a glance at Ethan, who mirrored his joy with a soft smile. Jake was still on unsteady ground, but the path ahead felt clearer now. The shadows that loomed earlier transformed into a horizon painted with vibrant colors. At that moment, Jake understood that it was no longer about being afraid. It was about standing tall together, facing the challenges that lay ahead as they forged their own path through love, acceptance, and the beautiful chaos of life. And they could begin again, as a family, together. This was just the beginning. As the laughter echoed in their voices and the warmth of togetherness enfolded them, there was no limit to what they could create. Now is the time for you to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next amazing stories that inspire transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm and spread the message of love. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending, sharing your own experiences of acceptance and growth. And don't wait, not even one more second, to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let's make this journey viral together.